The situation in Comoria was worse than we thought. A rogue organization, codenamed Team Somber, had infiltrated nearly every corner of the region. Their target? The Dreamstones, artifacts powerful enough to bend memory, time, and reality itself. If they succeeded, it wouldn't just be Comoria that fell, but the whole world would follow. So I was sent in by the higher-ups, undercover of course. My role? Research assistant at Tenebrous Labs, Comoria's top facility in Pokémon Dream and Memory Science. It was the perfect cover, and I had my objectives, to track down Team Somber and to stop whatever apocalyptic nonsense they were brewing. I was briefed on my contact, Professor Tenebrous, the lead researcher in Comoria on Dreamstones. But on the morning of my first day, she vanished without a trace, publicly declared missing. Privately, I feared something worse. With the head of the lab gone, her assistant, Professor Rue, was left to manage the fallout. The welcome package they'd prepared for me somehow ended up being the evidence bag meant for the regional detectives, so Rue made sure I got the right package, a few Pokeballs, a potion, and a map of the region. He also asked me to head to Fenelal Town to pick up a delivery they'd been expecting, so I agreed to go. But before I left, he offered me a starter Pokemon for my journey. A choice between a Gothita, a Timber, or a scrappy little Zigzagoon. I picked Zigzagoon and nicknamed her Agent Zero. As I was heading out the door, Rue stopped me and asked me to give the evidence bag to the regional detectives stationed just outside the town. So I meet up with the detectives and handed over the so-called evidence, but it was just an EXP share. Strange. It seems like Rue made a mistake. Still, I followed orders and pressed on to Fenelal Town. On the way, I picked up my first partner in the field, a P-Dove I called Agent 1. She's light, fast, and having a flying type never hurts. But when I reached the Pokemart, the story took another strange turn. The clerk told me Professor Tenebrous had already picked up the package days ago before she disappeared. So I make my way back to the lab to tell Professor Rue what the clerk had told me. He was there waiting with the regional detectives. That's when Rue finally told us what was really inside the package, a Dreamstone. Tenebrous had planned to study it using a device she developed called the Dreamalizer. The Dreamstone was meant to be its power source. With Tenebrous missing and the Dreamalizer incomplete, Rue decided someone had to track down the remaining Dreamstones to examine them for clues. But with the lab short-staffed and the region on edge, no one else could be spared. That's when they officially assigned me to the Dreamstone investigation. Well, officially in their eyes. I already had my orders. And then he showed up. Cola, the so-called ace rookie of Galecrest Academy's detective program. He stormed into the lab demanding to be assigned to the case himself. He's bold, cocky, and annoying. He then challenges me to a battle to prove that he's more qualified. But he and his Charcadet are no match for me and Zero. She takes out Charcadet with 2 clean headbutts, putting Cola in his place. He says a single battle means nothing and declares that he'll be the one to find the Dreamstones. Then he storms off to start his investigation. Before I go, Professor Rue tells me that there should be a Dreamstone at Mount Serum. And with this new lead, I start heading that way. I start by going back to Fenelal Town, the first step on the road to Gastri City, and eventually, Mount Serum. But to leave Fenelal, I'll have to get through a tunnel that's currently blocked by a hiker. Apparently he's looking for a small pink Pokemon that ran off with his rock. He asked me to help him find it, and with him blocking the way, I pretty much have to help him. So I go down to Route 2, and while I'm there, I figure I might as well catch my next Pokemon. Damn it, no, not you, I already have one of you. Oh, much better. I catch this Rockruff and name him too. He's got the own Tempo ability, which means he'll evolve into a Dusk form Lycanroc at level 25. After that, I started searching the route and stumbled upon a Pokemon matching the hiker's description. It darted into a cave, so I followed after it. The Pokemon turns out to be a Clefairy, and I managed to corner it to get the rock back, but then it attacks me. So I have Zero take it out with a pair of headbutts. Clefairy then drops the rock and scurries off. I then pick up the rock, and then explore the rest of the cave. I find a Pokeball with the TM Encore. Huh, I wonder if this will be useful. Anyways, I head back to the hiker to return his rock, when the Clefairy from earlier shows up again. Turns out, the Clefairy really likes the hiker's rock, so he decides to bring it along as his new hiking partner. He finally introduces himself as Breach, a simple man with a simple passion, collecting rocks. With Clefairy happily tagging along, Breach heads into the tunnel and I follow right behind. I then get access to more encounters. I catch a Tinkatink in the tunnel, a Lillipup on Route 3, and a Meditite in the underpass, completing my first team of 6. Right before I reach Gastri City, I spot Breach and Clefairy again, but they're not alone. Someone's attacking them. That someone turns out to be a Team Somber grunt named Gabriel, who's trying to steal Breach's rock, claiming it's actually a Dreamstone. Breach calls out for me to help, so I hurry to his aid. And after a single snarl from Zero, Gabriel runs away before I get the chance to interrogate her. With Breach and Clefairy safe, I finally make it to Gastri City. Almost as soon as I arrive though, I see a Skitty running off and its trainer comes to me for help. So after chasing it around town, I manage to corner it and return it to her. As thanks, she gives me the HM for Splash, a hidden machine I'll need to move across the region. But before I can actually use Splash to get around, I'll need to get the first gym badge here in Gastri City. So I decide to take part in the gym challenge, which will also give me more cover. But when I get to the gym, I run into Cola again. He just beat the gym leader and wants revenge for being embarrassed in front of the detectives earlier, like it's somehow my fault that he sucks. So of course, he challenges me to another battle, which he loses, as Zero takes out his Yamper and 2 takes out his Charcadet. With that over, I head inside the gym, only to find out that the gym leader's not even there anymore. He went off the train, so before heading over to where he's at, I decide to go over to Route 4, where I encounter what just might be the most important Pokemon I'll catch this entire mission. A Chikorita! That's right, Agent 6 is indispensable, with access to moves like Leech Seed, Encore, Trailblaze, and Reflector Light Screen depending on the situation. I can always count on him to get me out of the toughest spots. With 6 added to the team, it was finally time to take on Inger, Gastri City's Rock-type gym leader. 6 starts the battle off strong, firing off Razor Leafs that take out both Rockruff and Geodude, leaving him with his ace Pokemon, Minior. Minior is a rock and flying type with some pretty high stats compared to my current team, but Inger's Minior in particular knows Rollout and Confuse Ray. Plus it has the ability Shields Down, which means when Minior reaches below half HP, it changes forms, lowering its defense but increasing its attack and speed in return. But thanks to 5 the Meta-type resisting Rollout and having access to Detect, she's able to stop Minior's Rollouts from getting out of control, while whittling it down with Confusions, getting the KO and defeating Inger for my first gym badge. With Inger defeated, I set my sights on Mount Serum's base camp. On the way there, both 6 and 4 evolve, giving the team a much needed boost. Just as I was about to reach the camp, I ran into some more Team Somber grunts. And after beating them in a battle, they retreated into the base camp, so I followed after them. I tracked them to a supply depot overrun with more grunts. And after battling my way through, I finally reached the center of the commotion. That's where I find the real source of all the chaos. One of the Team Somber bosses alongside that grunt Gabriel. They're trying to steal the depot's supplies. The base's gym leader, Ariana, is already there trying to hold them off, but she can't take them both on at the same time, so she has me take on Gabriel while she handles the boss. And thanks to Zero taking out both Gabriel's Zorua and Baltoy, Ariana and I defeat Team Somber and save the depot. With Team Somber now driven out of the base camp, Ariana heads back to the gym, leaving me free to do a little exploring. While looking around, I run into a wild Pokemon hiding inside of a drill. It ends up being a Drillbur, so I catch it and name her 7. Then I decide it's time to take on Ariana in her gym, since I'll need her gym badge before I can move on to Mount Serum. Ariana is Komoria's fire-type specialist, and she leads with her Growlithe while I lead with 2. And thanks to his own tempo ability, Growlithe's Intimidate doesn't affect him. Then, with a Rock Gem boosted Rock Throw, he takes out her Fire Pup in one hit. She then sends out her next Pokemon, Sizzlipede, which also gets nuked by a 4-time effective Rock Throw, leaving Ariana with her last Pokemon, her Paldean Tauros. This Tauros is a fire and fighting type with a high attack and defense, which gets worse when it uses Workup, raising its attack stats. On top of that, it has Flame Charge for speed boosts, and Double Kick for a strong stab fighting move. All in all, this thing's a huge threat, but luckily, I have a plan. Now 6 may be weak to fire, but thanks to Tauros going for Workup on turn 1, he's able to set up a Reflect. With physical damage weakened, Tauros goes for another Workup, but it got too greedy. 6 goes for an Encore, forcing it to keep spamming Workup while 6 sneaks in a Poison Powder. But wait, Encore will wear off soon, and Tauros will outspeed 6, right? Wrong. 6 uses Trailblaze, boosting his speed and letting him move first, so once Encore ends, he just reactivates it, keeping Tauros locked down until the poison damage finally knocks it out, beating Ariana and earning us the Cinder Badge. With the Cinder Badge in hand, Zero evolves into a Linoon, and I'm granted passage into Mount Serum. As I start making my way up the mountain, I spot two Team Somber grunts talking, and Cola. I head over so we can listen in on their conversation. They mentioned being ordered to keep anyone from climbing the mountain because their boss had finally found a Dreamstone. After that, the two left for their posts. Cola, being the cocky fool that he is, immediately thinks that he can stop them all by himself. But honestly, if he could even make it past those two grunts we just saw, I'd be surprised. When Cola heads off, I'm finally free to explore the mountain myself. On the way up, I run into a Venipede. I catch the cute little bug, and when 8 joins the team, she immediately evolves into a Whirlipede. But that's not the only new teammate. Inside Mount Serum's interior, I run into a Roly-Coly and catch that too. From there, I start running into Team Somber grunts, and after battling my way through the mountain, I eventually reach the spot where those grunts I overheard earlier were stationed. And of course, Cola's already there. But he's got this, right? Huh, can't say I didn't see that one coming. Anyways, with Cola defeated, it was up to me to save the day. So after I took down the grunts in battle, I continued making my way up to the peak of the mountain. As I reached the top, I find Team Somber, and right in front of them was Mount Serum's Dreamstone. If they got their hands on it, who knows what would happen. I had to stop them. But standing in my way wasn't just some grunt, it was Moxie, one of Team Somber's bosses and head of their research wing. If I wanted to protect the Dreamstone, I had no choice but to battle him. He starts off with his Impidimp, which hits 8 the Whirlipede with a flatter, confusing her. But she pushes through the confusion and KOs Impidimp with a single Poison Tail. Moxie plans to bring his Murkrow in next, so with a quick switch to 2 the Rockruff and a couple of super effective rock throws, Murkrow also gets taken down, leaving Moxie with his last Pokemon, Slowbro, which Zero cleans up with 2 Night Slashes, winning us the battle. But just because I beat Moxie doesn't mean the Dreamstone's safe. He yells for Gabriel to grab it so they can escape, but the second she touches it, she gets stuck to the stone. As she struggles to break free, the whole mountain rumbles and a storm brews overhead. Moxie and the rest of Team Somber panic and run, leaving Gabriel behind, so I rush in to help her. The power of the Dreamstone teleports Gabriel and I straight into the middle of a sandstorm in some random desert. With no clue where we are, I start searching for a way out. While exploring, I run into the ancient Pokemon Lily. I catch it and then keep searching. Luckily, it isn't long before I come across the Dreamstone again. I head back to Gabriel, and together we use it to teleport back to Comoria. We ended up teleporting to Gilcrest City, home of the Detective Academy. Since I saved her life, Gabriel owes me a favor, so I decided to let her go back to Team Somber for now. After we part ways, I head up to the academy where I run into the detectives and Professor Rue. They asked me what happened on Mount Serum, so I filled them in. According to Rue, the Dreamstone had actually sent me to the past, a power nobody knew that it had. With this revelation, Rue hurried back to his lab, while the detectives give me an update on their investigation. It turns out Professor Tenebris was spotted by an agent in Silversun City. But the problem is Team Somber's hideout is also confirmed to be in Silversun. With Professor Tenebris, her Dreamstone, and Team Somber all in the same place, things could erupt. They tell me to meet up with Cola inside the Detective Academy so we can meet up before heading to Silversun. After that, they wish me luck and head off, while I step into the academy. I find Cola upstairs alone in a classroom staring out the window. He tells me he worked hard to become the ace rookie to stop all crime, but after I saved the day, he realized being the ace rookie isn't everything, and that he needs to get stronger. As he leaves, he lets me know I'll need Rock Smash to move forward, and for that, I've got to beat the gym here. He says he'll see me in Silversun, or maybe even sooner. Cola heads off, and I figure it's time to prepare for what's next. I grab 9 the Roly-Coly out of the box, and right away, he evolves into a Carkol. With that boost, it's off to Gastri City's gym. The gym's run by the Academy students, so after battling my way through the gym trainers, I finally make it to the leader's room, where I find Cola waiting. It turns out, he's Gastri City's gym leader since he's the top of his class. Normally, the gym sticks to normal types, but because it's me, he says he's using his real team. Cola leads with his Yamper, but it doesn't stick around long as 5 knocks it out with just 2 Force Palms. So next up is his Duat. I switch into 6, who sets up a reflect while dodging a Fury Cutter. 6 follows that up with a Poison Powder. And with Duat poisoned, I switch into 9 to Carcoal to tank another hit. From there, I pivot again into 10 to Lily, who hangs in there and finishes off Duat with a few Mega Drains. I then send 9 back out just before Cola brings in his Curlio. 9 lands some solid damage with a Flame Charge before getting put to sleep by a Hypnosis. After a few turns, 9 finally wakes up and fires off another Flame Charge, which KOs Curlia, forcing Cola to send out his final Pokemon, Ceruledge. Ceruledge is a Ghost and Fire type with a really high attack stat. Wait a minute, why am I even telling you this? Either way, it doesn't matter, because Zero steps in and knocks it out with just 2 Night Slashes. And with that, Cola goes down, again, and we've gotten our 3rd gym badge. Thanks to getting the Clue badge, 2 the Rockruff finally evolves into a Dusk form Lycanroc, and 3 the Tinkatink evolves into a Tinkatuff. Feeling good about our progress, I set towards Silversun. On the way, I run into a wandering merchant on Route 5, who offers me a strange egg, a mysterious rock, or an ugly fish for just $100. Naturally, I buy the fish, but more on that later. The path leads me into Vilethorn Woods, where I end up finding a wild fungus and catch it. But things get serious when I spot a Team Somber grunt while wandering deeper into the woods. I stay hidden and listen, and sure enough, he confirms it. They captured the professor. The grunt heads back towards their headquarters, and of course, I follow close behind. I track him all the way to the theater in Silversun, but he runs backstage, and to follow him, I'd need a backstage pass. So I head to Silversun's gym, where I heard you can get one. After making my way through the gym trainers, I received the backstage pass, allowing me to follow the grunt and battle the gym leader. But before that, I decide to check out Silversun sewers. While exploring for more somber grunts, I come across a shiny Quillfish. And after throwing what feels like an endless supply of Great Balls, I finally catch it and 13 officially joins the team. And speaking of shinies, that ugly fish I bought? Yeah, that ended up being a shiny Feebas. So 11 may be ugly now, but he's going to be a beautiful Milotic once I find a Prism Scale. Anyways, I make my way back to the theater, this time with the backstage pass. When I head backstage, I run right into Gabriel. She's guarding Team Somber's base. So I call in my favor, and she steps aside, letting me inside. Once in the base, I cut through the grunts without much trouble, and push through until I reach the main room. That's when I find out the professor they caught wasn't Tenebris, it was Rue. They've captured him and stolen the Dreamalizer's blueprints, planning to use it to help capture the second Dreamstone in Mount Myro. But before I can do anything, I'm spotted by the boss and her grunts, leaving me no choice but to confront them. She wanted to know how I got inside the base, and that's when another grunt rats out Gabriel, saying she was on guard duty. And when confronted, Gabriel cracks under pressure, admitting that she let me inside. And just like that, she was kicked out of Team Somber for her betrayal. And with Gabriel gone, the boss, Malia, turns her attention back to me. Because now that I know their plan, she isn't gonna let me walk out of here quietly. So if I wanna leave, I'm gonna have to battle my way out. Malia starts the battle off with her Slowpoke, but thanks to Zero and a couple of Night Slashes, it's easily defeated, letting me switch into 2, who takes out her Yanmega with 1 Rock Gem boosted Rock Tomb, and with Yanmega gone, she sends out her Grimer next, so I bring in 5. And even though she gets hit by a Toxic, she's still able to land a few Force Bombs, securing the KO, leaving Malia with her last Pokemon, Absol. But 3 comes in clutch, finishing it off with 2 Draining Kisses and a Metal Claw, defeating her and saving Professor Rue. I take Rue to the detectives who'd been undercover in town, and they're relieved to see that he's okay. Rue explains that Team Somber stormed the lab, threatening everyone unless they handed over the Dreamalizer's blueprints. Apparently, they wanted to use the Dreamalizer's power to control the Dreamstone so they can enter the past freely. But for what exactly, we still have no clue. Rue then heads back to the lab to rest, and I turn my attention to the detectives. They recommend I speak to an old acquaintance of theirs who attends the graveyards at Mount Myro's base camp. They're hoping she might have some insight on why Team Somber is so obsessed with the past. They also give me the HM for strength, but to use it, I'll need to beat Silversun City's gym leader, Gloria. So it's back to the theater, but this time, I head on stage where Gloria is waiting. The battle starts with her Bayleaf. which immediately sets up a reflect. She tries to stall his synthesis, restoring its HP, but once reflect wears off, 8 is free to land a super effective bug bite for the KO. Gloria sends out her Linoon next, but after a few more bug bites, 8 takes that down too, and her rampage doesn't stop there, as Lilligant comes out next, but a few poison tails later, it gets KO'd as well, leaving Gloria with only her Bombardier, but 2 steps in and handles it with a couple of rock tombs, defeating Gloria and earning us the drama badge. Now to reach Mount Myro's base camp, I first have to pass through Pelica City. On the way there, the team gets a big boost. 8, 5, and 6 all evolve. I even managed to catch a wild Goomy on Route 6. But that's not all that happens. I also stumble across Gabriel, who's been on the run from Team Somber. They finally cornered her, planning to steal her Zoroark, but no way I'm letting that happen. We team up and take on the grunts together, sending them packing. After that, I run into the Wandering Merchant again, and this time, I finally buy the Prism Scale that Eleven needs to evolve. I also see Gabriel again at her house, where she finally opens up about why she joined Team Somber. Turns out, she's been raising her family all on her own with no parents, and was using Somber's pay to support her siblings. But after getting kicked out, she realized the errors in her ways, and decided to find honest work from now on. As thanks for saving her, she gives me a choice between a choice specs, a choice band, or a choice scarf. I take the choice band and then make my way to Pelica City. When I arrive, I see the city's mayor arguing with the leader of the Quill Squad. Apparently, the Quill Squad doesn't like how the mayor's been running things, so they've decided to take control of the city themselves. After they storm off, the mayor apologizes for the scene and invites me to his house to explain more. He tells me Pelica was a fine city before the Quill Squad showed up out of nowhere, and since he's a politician and not a trainer, there's nothing he could do to stand up to them, so I offer to help clear them out of town. But before I deal with the Quill Squad, I finally give Eleven the Prism Scale, and he evolves into a Milotic. With that power-up, it was time to move out. The grunt guarding their hideout wouldn't let me in unless I was a member of the squad, but once I showed him 13, my shiny Quillfish, he was convinced that I was one of them, and let me through the door. As soon as we stepped inside, 13 evolved into an Overquill, like he was waiting just for the perfect moment to show off. With 13 powered up, I headed further into the Quill Squad's hideout. I meet with the boss and tell him straight up that he can't take over the town. But yeah, he didn't like that. He ordered his grunts to attack me, but after I dealt with them, the boss himself decided to battle. Once I beat him, he finally agrees to hear me out, and decided to speak with the mayor again. But before that could ever happen, the whole building shook. We all rushed outside to see what was going on, and ended up gathering on the other side of town, where the rest of the town and the mayor were. That's when the mayor filled us in. A Mega Sharpedo had been rampaging down the Ivy River, kicking up a storm that flooded the whole town. The worst part, 4 people were still trapped in the flood and needed to be saved. But instead of working together, the boss and the mayor immediately started arguing again until the citizens finally had enough of it. And they're not the only ones that were fed up. Pelica City's gym leader, Jania, came down from her gym to see all the chaos, and she had enough of it too. She quickly took charge, coming up with a plan to distract the wild Sharpedo while we rescued the trapped citizens. She handed me the 8 gem for Surf, so while the mayor and the boss protected the people on the land, I could go and save the people trapped in the flood. And after getting everybody to safety, we regrouped at the Pokemon Center to wait out the storm. Once things settled down a bit, I got ready to leave Pelica, but before heading out, I said my goodbyes to the mayor and the boss. The boss borrowed my HM for Surf, but of course, he managed to break it. But to make up for it, the mayor handed me a Mega Bracelet. And with that, my time in Pelica came to an end for now, as I set my sights on Mount Myro's base camp. With Pelica behind me, I hopped on the lift and headed up the mountain. At the base camp, I run into Professor Rue again, which is strange, since he should have been back at the lab. He's shocked to see me and asks why I'm there, and after I tell him I'm looking for Martha, he understands and wishes me luck. Then he heads off. But something doesn't sit right, so I do a bit of investigating. I discover the man that Rue was speaking with just moments before was actually a Master Ball craftsman. But what would Rue need with something like that? Interesting. Anyways, I move on and stumble across a line at the base camp's gym, where I overhear it's about to close soon. So I quickly battle my way through the trainers in the line to make sure I can get a gym badge. And it's a good thing that I do too, because it turns out they only had one gym badge left. And after beating the last gym trainers, I finally get the chance to battle Corona, the 5th gym leader. This is also a good time to mention that before the battle, I went and picked up the P-Dove, and she evolved into an Unpheasant. And it's a good thing that she did too, or we'd have been in big trouble. The battle starts and Corona leads with her Toxicroak, so I send out 5. And if you didn't know, 5 the Medicham has the ability Pure Power, which doubles his attack stat. So instead of it being a measly 60, it's actually 120. And thanks to that boost, 5 is able to take out Corona's Toxicroak in a single Zen Headbutt. With Toxicroak out of the way, she sends in her Pangoro next. So I switch into 3, who is able to one-shot it with a 4-time effective Play Rough. When her Annihilate comes in, I send out 6. He immediately sets up a Reflect as Annihilate goes for a Swagger, raising 6's attack, but also confusing him. Luckily, 6 pushes through the confusion and gets off a Leech Seed before taking a critical hit Cross Chop. But thanks to a Citrus Berry and that Leech Seed recovery, 6 is still in good shape. He even pushes through his second turn of confusion, landing solid damage with Trailblaze. But sadly, on the 3rd turn, he hits himself, and when Leech Seed damage puts Annihilate in the red, Corona uses a full restore to bring it back to full health. So I have 6 set up another Reflect, and after a few more Trailblazes, he's able to wear it down and finish the job, clearing the way for 1 as Corona sends out her final Pokemon, Medicham. Now as I mentioned before, Medicham is a Psychic Fighting type with the ability Pure Power, doubling its attack stat from 60 to 120. But when it Mega Evolves, its base attack stat becomes 100, which means with Pure Power, it skyrockets to a massive 200 attack. So when Corona Mega Evolves her Medicham, I need a Pokemon that can handle the pressure, and that's where 1 comes in. Not only does she land an Air Cutter that nearly gets the KO, but she also is able to tank a high jump kick from this absolute monster, securing the knockout the next turn with another Air Cutter, and with that Corona goes down and we earn our 5th gym badge. After the battle, 3 evolves into a Tinkaton, and I make my way to the graveyards to search for Martha. While I'm there, I run into a Shuppet and catch it. But then I run into Cola again, and he's standing over a grave. He asks me if I know what happens when you push something too hard, but before I can even respond, he challenges me to another battle. My team wipes the floor with him, but as the battle went on, I noticed one Pokemon was missing. And that's when it hits me. This grave. It belongs to his Yamper. Cola pushed it past its limits until it collapsed. His own partner, buried because of his recklessness. What a monster. What a loser. I can't believe he let this happen, and I won't let him get away with this. I pay my respects to Yamper, and then head back into town. That's when I notice an old woman standing just outside the graveyard. I asked her her name, and sure enough, she's Martha, the very person I was sent to find. She invites me back to her home to talk. Martha tells me about ancient Comoria, a land once ravaged by ancient Pokemon. The Pokemon might not still exist, but their fossils tell their stories. One fossil in particular, though, is different. It's damaged in so many ways that no Pokemon on record could have inflicted that kind of destruction. This mystery became known as the Ancient Terror, a legend that still lingers to this day. And now it seems like Team Somber may be using the Dreamstones for something connected to this ancient Pokemon. I then thank Martha for the information, but before I leave, she gives me an old bone, which just so happens to be exactly what the Greavard blocking my path were looking for. After handing it over, they run off, and Martha makes her way over to me again. She offers me a Megastone of my choice, so I pick the Metachamite. And after that, she heads back to her house, and I start climbing the mountain. It's not long before I run into a wild Pokemon, and it just so happens to be a shiny Rufflet. I catch it and add 17 to the team, and keep moving up the mountain. Soon after, I run into Breach and his Clefairy again. I tell him I'm on the hunt for Team Somber, and he lets me know he just saw a couple of grunts pass through. Apparently, they left a drill behind, and used it to block the path with a pile of rocks. So after clearing the way, I set off right on their trail. Luckily, I find some Somber grunts up ahead and manage to eavesdrop on their conversation. That's when I learned the equipment they've been carrying this whole time was actually a Dreamalizer they had built. But before I can hear anything else, they spot me and attack. After beating them, I make my way to Winter Lily Hollow, taking a short break from chasing down Team Somber. While I'm there, I stumble across a retired detective in his armor rouge, and his armor rouge gives me a piece of auspicious armor. With that in hand, I hop on the Drift Blimp transport service for a quick pit stop back to Galecrest City. At the Detective Academy, I flash my badge and request a char cadet, and they hand one over without hesitation. With 15 now on the team, I give him the auspicious armor, and just like that, he evolves into an armor rouge of my own. Then I return to Winter Lily Hollow and continue my climb up Mount Myro. Along the way, I come across a man completely surrounded by Team Somber grunts. He turns out to be Vanille, Winter Lily Hollow's gym leader. Once they all noticed me, Vanille shouts for me to keep moving, saying he'll hold off the grunts himself. And with him buying me time, I don't waste a second and press forward. But of course, the climb doesn't go uninterrupted. I still run into a few more Team Somber grunts while making my way up, and after battling through them, I finally reach the peak of the mountain. That's where I find both Moxie and Malia waiting. Malia quickly orders Moxie to power on the Dreamalizer to send her to the past. He then turns to me and says that I'm too late, that Malia's already on her way to capture the Ancient Terror. Then he offers me a chance to back down and walk away, but of course, I refuse. If I want to stop Team Somber's plans, I'll have to stop Moxie right here, right now. Moxie leads with his Morgrim, so I send out 3, and after hitting it with a fake out for some chip damage, she still manages to KO it with a single Gigaton hammer, even though Morgrim sets up a reflect right before. With Morgrim out, I switch into 2 as Moxie sends in his Honchkrow. It's bulky enough to survive a Choice Band boosted Excel Rock and hit back with a Night Slash that lands a critical hit. Thankfully, on the next turn, Moxie wastes the Super Potion, restoring Honchkrow's HP, just for 2 to finish it off with 2 more Excel Rocks. That forces out his Slowking. I bring in Zero the Linoon, holding an Eviolite, and it's a good thing that she is. Her first Night Slash doesn't do a lot of damage, letting Slowking set up a Calm Mind to boost its special attack and special defense. Luckily though, Morgrim's Reflect finally wears off, letting Zero hit way harder with her next Night Slash. Thanks to the Eviolite, she's also able to tank a strong Sludge Bomb and finish off Slowking with another Night Slash. With Slowking down, I switch into 5 the Medicham as Moxie sends out his final Pokemon, Houndoom. He Mega Evolves his Houndoom and I Mega Evolve 5. And even though Houndoom fires off a powerful flamethrower, 5 hangs on and lands a Force Palm, KOing Houndoom in 1 hit and defeating Moxie. But victory doesn't mean that I can relax, because Moxie turns to one of his grunts and orders him to head inside the Dreamstone and warn Malia of what's going on. And after the grunt runs off, Moxie walks over to the Dreamalizer and warps me away. When I come to, I find myself in ancient Comoria again. But there's no time to explore, I have to find Team Somber and stop them from getting the Ancient Terror. I run into the grunt Moxie sent to warn Malia, but the second he spots me, he runs for it. A moment later, I hear someone shouting after him. It's not another grunt, but Cola. I quickly fill him in on what happened, but before I could even finish, he rushes off determined to be the one who stops them. I follow him and eventually arrive at an ancient tower. That's where I find Cola facing off against Team Somber, and they weren't alone. They'd found the Ancient Terror. We tried to intervene, but it was already too late. Malia pulls a Master Ball from one of her grunts and captured the ancient Pokemon without fail. Without wasting a second, she headed for the Dreamstone, calling for her grunt to join her. But the poor guy was having trouble with his boots, having to take them off just to make it in time. And the moment he reaches her, she activated the Dreamstone and they vanished, leaving Cola and I stranded. With no way back, Cola and I decide to look for another Dreamstone, and while I was looking around, I caught sight of a woman slipping into a nearby cave. Curious, I followed after her, but the deeper I went, the more certain I became that she was leading me somewhere. Eventually, she disappeared entirely, leaving behind only a strange Pokeball. But the strangest part was that the woman looked exactly like the missing Professor Tenebris. I picked up the Pokeball, which ended up being a rare shard, all while turning over a troubling thought in my head. How could Team Somber have gotten their hands on a Master Ball? And then it hits me. Back at Mount Myro's base camp, the craftsman, it all lines up. I have to tell Cola and the detectives. So I hurry up to find a way back. Luckily, I run into Cola again standing beside another Dreamstone. Together we use it to return to the present, But before I can tell Cola my theory, he cuts me off, blaming me for everything. He said I could have stopped Malia from catching the ancient terror if I hadn't hesitated. I tried to tell him about seeing the woman who looked like Tenebris, but he didn't believe me. He calls me a liar and strips me from the case. He then tells me the detectives were already in touch with my HQ, so they knew I was undercover now. And once he reported what happened here, I'd be finished as an agent. And just like that, he leaves. Before I could tell him who was really behind it all, I find myself standing alone, staring out at the lake. And for the first time in a long time, everything seems so calm. Cola's words keep echoing in my head, and maybe he's right. Maybe this whole thing with Team Somber was never my place. I wanted to believe I could make a difference, that I could somehow stop something bigger than myself. But all I've done is make mistakes. So maybe it's time to stop pretending and forget about Team Somber, forget about the ancient terror, and leave it up to the regional detectives. From here on out, I'll just keep moving forward with the gym challenge. And with that decision made, I made my way over to the gym in Winter Lily Hollow. I met the gym leader Vanille earlier. He specializes in electric types. But to battle him, I had to get through all of his gym trainers so I could unlock the path that leads to him. And when I finally make it to him, my 6th gym battle begins. He leads with his Kilowattrel, so I send down 2. And one Excel Rock almost takes Kilowattrel out immediately, but a Focus Sash lets it hang on and fire back with an Uproar that only scratches 2. The next turn, another Excel Rock finishes the job, so Vanille then sends out his Toxtricity. So I switch into my secret weapon, 7. Now you might remember, I caught a Drillbur at Mount Serum Space Camp. Well, since then, she's evolved into an Excadrill. And she's the perfect Pokemon for this battle, because she gives us an immunity to the rest of Vanille's team. It only takes a single super effective dig each to take out both his Toxtricity and Lantern, leaving him only with his Manectric. Vanille Mega Evolves it, but even that isn't enough. With one more dig, the battle was over, and with that, Vanille was defeated and I earned my 6th gym badge. Before I leave Winter Lily Hollow, Vanille also gives me the HM for Surf. I come across a Sneasler digging into the cave wall. It actually breaks through, leaving behind a small hole I can slip through. Inside, I find a Citadel and catch it. And after some leveling up, 20 evolves into a Cititan. From there, it's off to Pelica again for my 7th gym badge. On the way, I run into a Dreepy and follow it into a grotto. I manage to catch it, but unfortunately, 21 never ends up being used. When I finally reach Pelica's gym, Jania isn't there. She's still dealing with that Mega Sharpedo. So I go check up on her. I find her in a cave along the Ivy River, where she shows me the Sharpedo trapped in its own hideout. She pinned it down with currents, so it can't get through without using the HM flip turn. To make sure that it would faint, she even tossed in a life orb. With that, she headed back to the gym, so I followed after her. On my way back, it was raining, so 14 the Goomy popped out of his Pokeball to enjoy it. And he actually loved it so much that he evolved into a Sliggoo right there. I then make it back to the gym, and after taking care of a couple of gym trainers, I run into Gabriel. She's also set her sights on becoming champion too, and for the first time, we battle as rivals instead of enemies. She leads with her Mawile, so I send out 14. To be safe, I have him Protect to scout out its moves, and sure enough, it goes for knockoff. That means it's a Zoroark in disguise. So I switch into 13, who tanks the hit but loses his Dark Gem. But that doesn't matter though, because he also takes a Shadow Ball and hits back with a super effective bite, knocking out Gabriel's Zoroark. She then sends in her actual Mawile, so I switch into 5, and after Mega Evolving, 5 cleans up the rest of Gabriel's team, taking out Mawile, Pakaomo, and Claydol, giving me the win and clearing the way to battle Jania. But unfortunately, this battle isn't as easy as Vanille. Our match begins as Jania sends out her Pelipper and I send out 14. And thanks to the Eviolite he's holding, he's ridiculously tanky. Even against a rain-boosted Muddy Water, 14 answers back with a Dragon Pulse that chunks Pelipper for just over half. The next turn plays out the same, but this time Pelipper goes down. Jania's next Pokemon is her Clawitzer, so I bring in 6 to set up a light screen. That lets him tank what would have been a pretty strong Water Pulse. The following turn, 6 lets off a Leech Seed. So Jania then switches into her Toxapex while Trailblaze barely scratches it. Not wanting to risk 6, I switch into 13 while Toxapex hides behind a Baneful Bunker. 13 lets off a gem-boosted bite for solid damage, but unfortunately, Toxapex's Black Sludge recovery and a Baneful Bunker start to undo the work. 13 does manage to land a couple more bites, but after too many muddy waters lowering her accuracy, she starts to miss. So I swap into 5, who comes in on yet another muddy water and also gets her accuracy dropped. I Mega Evolve 5, hoping to finish off Toxapex with a Zen Headbutt, but she also misses, giving Toxapex the opening to hit her with a Toxic, and after stalling with another Baneful Bunker, Toxapex finally goes down when 5 connects with a Zen Headbutt. But for now, 5 is badly poisoned, and not wanting to lose her, I switch into 20 the Titan as Jania sends out her Toedscruel. That fight doesn't last long, as a 4-time effective Ice Spinner wipes out Toedscruel instantly. Jania then brings back out Clawitzer, so naturally, I pivot back into 6. He sets up another light screen and tanks another Water Pulse, then he fires back with a Trailblaze that nearly gets to KO. But the next time he gets hit by a Water Pulse, it confuses him. Thankfully, his Citrus Berry kicks in for some recovery. But instead of finishing Clawitzer off, 6 smacks himself and has to take another Water Pulse. I think about switching him out, but decide to trust him. And that faith pays off as 6 breaks through the confusion and lands another Trailblaze for the KO, leaving Jania down to her final Pokemon, Gyarados. Now Gyarados is a water and flying type with a massive attack stat, making it one of the most dangerous physical attackers in the whole world. Its ability Intimidate weakens your Pokemon's attack the moment it enters battle, which makes breaking through its bulk even harder. But things get even scarier when it Mega Evolves. Gyarados trades its flying type for Dark, becoming Water Dark, and gains a huge boost to its attack and defense. Combine that with its already solid coverage, and Mega Gyarados is a monster that can tear any team apart. But luckily, I still have 3 the Tinkaton. Her own Tempo ability means she's completely immune to Gyarados' Intimidate, and with Play Rough being super effective against its new Dark typing when it Mega Evolves, she has the perfect matchup. It only takes 2 Play Roughs to take it down, ending the battle. With that, Jania is defeated, and I've earned my 7th gym badge. Before I leave, Jania gives me the HM for Flip Turn, letting me move through currents at will. She also lets me know the 8th and final gym badge is held by Rozzy in Rivetore City. I leave the gym to head that way, but before I can get too far, Jania comes out after me. I ask her where she's going, and she tells me that all the gym leaders have been called to Rivetore. She then heads off in that direction. Not long after, Gabriel steps out as well. She tells me she overheard a conversation between Jania and Rozzy, and they mentioned Team Somber. I brush it off and tell her I'm not on the case, but Gabriel doesn't like that answer. The Otodle she knows wouldn't let something like that stop him. She tells me she's headed for Rivetore to earn her 8th and final gym badge, and that she'll be waiting for me there. Before leaving, she doubles down that I better show up. And you know what? I guess Gabriel's right. I don't have to be on the case to do the right thing, and who says you need a badge or a title to help? I don't need glory. I don't need recognition. All I need is to stop Team Somber, and if the gym leaders are gathering in Rivetore, then that's exactly where I'm headed. After going down the Ivy River, I arrive in Rivetore and run into Gabriel. She tells me she overheard the gym leaders at the harbor. They're planning to sail east, with their ship leaving soon. So I'll have to get a ticket before they sell out. I make my way to the harbor where I overhear the detectives and gym leaders holding a meeting. Vanille and Corona couldn't make it, but the rest are gathered. The detectives explain the situation. Despite all their efforts, they haven't found a single trace of Professor Tenebris. No one has seen her anywhere, and they suspect that Team Somber is holding her captive. On top of that, the Ranger Institution has reported a massive spike in geological activity that could lead to a region-wide drought. The reports indicate that the source is on an uncharted island to the east. The detectives then introduce Cola to the gym leaders and ask him to share what he knows about the Ancient Terror. To their shock, he confirms that Team Somber has already captured it, recounting exactly how it happened. The detectives insist that the only way to stop the Ancient Terror is with the combined strength of the region's gym leaders. Rozzy argues that they should wait until Vanille and Corona arrive, but the detectives push for immediate action. Rozzy compromises, saying Cola should go ahead of them, since he's recently defeated Rozzy and proven his strength. The other gym leaders agree, so it's decided. Cola will leave right away with the detectives on a speedboat, while the gym leaders follow behind on a cruise ship. And with that, they set off. With everyone gone, I head into the harbor to buy a ticket for the SS Elegant, only to find out that they're all sold out. I'll need another way onto the ship. I slip into a storage room where crates are waiting to be loaded aboard. In the corner, I spot one marked for the SS Elegant. But there's a problem. A massive slacking is fast asleep, blocking my path. While searching through the town, I run into a CEO looking for his lost berserker, Percy. I decide to lend a hand. Luckily, finding Percy doesn't take too long, as he was being mischievously led around by a Mimikyu. After catching the Mimikyu, Percy scurries back to his trainer. The CEO thanks me for reuniting them, and when I mention my slacking problem, he rewards me with a Poke Flute. With it in hand, I'm able to rouse the sleeping giant and clear the way. Finally, I climb into the crate bound for the SS Elegant, hiding inside as it's loaded aboard. And just like that, I've managed to sneak onto the ship. And after snaking past a few sailors, I make my way to the front of the ship where I find Rozzy waiting alone. So I decide to challenge him for my 8th and final gym badge. Rozzy specializes in steel types, and he leads with his Dugtrio, so I send out 5, who Mega Evolves right away. Dugtrio wastes its first turn whipping up a sandstorm, giving 5 the opportunity to hit it with a Force Palm. And with that, Dugtrio goes down, so Rozzy sends out his Skarmory next. But with a quick switch into 15, all it takes is a single flamethrower to take Skarmory out. Rozzy then sends in his Colossal, but 7 makes short work of it with a single Earthquake, getting the one-hit KO that forces him to bring out his own Excadrill. But 11 is ready. She shrugs off a dig, then knocks it out instantly with a gem-boosted Surf, leaving Rozzy with his ace Pokemon, Aggron. Aggron is a physical wall in every sense of the word, boasting enormous defense and a powerful attack stat to match. Its rock steel typing makes it weak to common moves like ground and fighting, but in exchange, it can dish out devastating blows with Iron Head, Stone Edge, and Earthquake. And when it Mega Evolves, Aggron sheds its rock typing entirely, becoming a pure steel type with an even bulkier defense stat, turning it into an unbreakable fortress. Even Mega Evolved, 5 struggles against this beast. A Force Palm chunks it for solid damage, but Aggron retaliates with a brutal Iron Head, one that would have knocked out 5 instantly if it had crit. So I couldn't risk it. I switched into 7, who tanks the next Iron Head like a champ. From there, I strike back with an Earthquake. It nearly gets the KO, but Mega Aggron hangs on and nails 7 with another Iron Head. Thankfully, she endures it, and one last Earthquake crashes through, bringing down the Steel Giant. Rozzy is then defeated, and I earned my 8th and final gym badge. Right after the battle ends, an announcement echoes over the ship's intercom, calling all gym leaders to disembark immediately. Rozzy warns me to stay behind, because where they're going things will be far too dangerous. And with that, he turns and leaves with the others. But of course, I can't just stay put. I start looking for a way to follow them when I run into Gabriel and her Zoroark. We quickly realize slipping past the ship's crew will be nearly impossible with just the 2 of us. That's when a familiar voice calls out. It's Breach with his Clefairy by his side. With one more ally on board, Gabriel lays out a plan. Zoroark will transform into Rozzy and lure the crew onto the deck, while Breach and Clefairy help me make my escape. We decide to meet in the storage room. But before heading there, I stop by the PC to retrieve 17, who evolves into a Braviary the moment I take him out. I then make my way to the storage room where Gabriel and Zoroark are already tricking the crew. Zoroark is perfectly imitating Rozzy. The crew takes the bait and rushes topside. That's when Breach and Clefairy step forward. Clefairy uses Moonblast, shattering a window wide open, and with a path clear, I leap through the window and escape the SS Elegant, landing on the shore of the uncharted island. Once I'm on the island, I start looking for Team Somber, but the place is crawling with gym leaders, so I have to stay out of sight, trying not to get caught. Eventually, I make my way past them and run straight into Moxie. He looks surprised to see me, telling me his intel told them that I was off the case. But before I could respond, Moxie then calls out for Malia, letting her know that I'm here. She comes from the other side, cornering me. She points across the water where the 3rd and final Dreamstone is located over in the distance. She explains this is where Professor Tenebris used her Dreamstone and disappeared. This is where everything started and where it'll all end. They're both ready to fight, but just then, Cola shows up. For a second, I think he's here to help, until he runs straight for the Dreamstone, leaving me to deal with Moxie and Malia alone. And with nobody else to help, it was up to me to defeat these two Team Somber bosses all by myself. I start with Moxie, who leads with his Grimmsnarl while I send out 7. And thanks to a super effective Metal Claw, it gets taken out in one hit, forcing Moxie to send in his Great Tusk, one of those ancient Pokemon from the past. I switch into 17 for his battle debut, and thanks to a Colbur Berry he's holding, he's able to survive a brutal knockoff that would have KO'd him otherwise. 17 then fires back with an Esper Wing that gets the one-hit KO. With his ancient Pokemon down, he sends in his Honchkrow, but 2's ready for it. All it takes is one Rock Gem boosted Excel Rock to take out his Honchkrow. Moxie then sends in his Slowking, so I send in 5 the Medicham, and she Mega Evolves instantly. Thanks to that, it only takes 2 Thunder Punches KOing Slowking, forcing Moxie to send out his final Pokemon, Houndoom. He wastes no time Mega Evolving it, and Houndoom gets a solid hit in with a Foul Play. But 5 tanks it and hits back with a Force Palm, KOing his Houndoom and beating Moxie. He can't believe that he lost, but Malia tells him to calm down and go after Cola instead. And after he storms off, Malia challenges me herself. My battle with her begins as she sends out her Yanmega, so I send out 7 again. 7 goes for a Metal Claw, but she misses, giving Yanmega the chance to U-turn out, switching straight into her ancient Pokemon, Fluttermane. Fluttermane opens up with a Mystical Fire, but 7 tanks the hit and fires back with another Metal Claw. This time it connects, and it takes out the ancient Pokemon in one single strike. Malia then sends Yanmega back in, so I switch into 2. Yanmega lands a feint that barely scratches 2, before it gets flattened by a 4-time effective Rock Gem boosted Excel Rock. Her next Pokemon is her Slowbro, so I send in 17, but I guess Malia didn't like that matchup because she immediately switched into her Muck as 17 fired off a Shadow Ball for some chip. I switch into 6 to take a Crunch and bait a Poison type move. That would make it safe for me to switch into 7. Luckily, my plan works as Muck goes for a Gunk Shot that doesn't affect 7. She then follows up with an Earthquake that takes out Muck in one hit. So Malia sends Slowbro back out. That means it's 17's turn again. He fires off another Shadow Ball that nearly gets the KO. In response, Slowbro uses Rain Dance, which gives me an idea. I have 17 set up a Tailwind the next turn while Slowbro does some chip with a Psychic. Then 17 finishes it off with another Shadow Ball, bringing Malia down to her final Pokemon, Absol. She Mega Evolves it on the spot, but it doesn't matter because I send in 11. And thanks to the Tailwind, he's able to outspeed and fire off a Water Gem boosted Surf, taking out Absol in a single hit. And with that, we finally beat Malia. After the battle, Malia stands there in disbelief. Then, without another word, she bolts towards the Dreamstone. I try to follow after her, but then she has her Absol destroy the path forward, cutting me off completely. So I circle back, hoping to find another way across. But before I can even start searching, I hear a voice, one I don't recognize. Then, out of nowhere, a woman jumps from the water and makes her way towards me. And I can't believe my eyes. It's Professor Tenebris. She tells me she's been hiding in ancient Comoria this whole time. Ever since she took the Dreamstone, she'd been trying to stay one step ahead of Team Somber, who'd been spying on her research from the very beginning. But after all her time in the past, she finally knows why they wanted the stone so badly. She tells me more about the Ancient Terror. Its unique ability, the Orichalcum Pulse, calls forth sunlight so powerful that its heat can be felt across the entire region. I then follow her as she takes me back to ancient Comoria with her Dreamstone, and together, we use the other Dreamstone in the past to return to the present, where Cola's facing off against Team Somber alone. But just then, Professor Tenebris and I appear, shocking everyone. Professor Tenebris notices Rue, but she doesn't understand what's happening, so I fill her in. Professor Rue is the leader of Team Somber. Shocking, I know. I first figured it out back at Mount Myro, and from that moment, everything made sense. From him giving me the wrong welcome package at the beginning of my journey, to handing over the Dreamalizer blueprints back in Silversun. He's even the reason why Team Somber got their hands on a Master Ball in the first place. It was all Professor Rue. I was just kicked off the case before I could tell anyone. That left Professor Tenebris asking why. So Rue explains that he formed Team Somber to use the Ancient Terror's Orichalcum Pulse, spreading its power over the region, creating heat waves and destruction across Comoria. Then, with his army of ancient Pokemon, Team Somber would take over completely. But I couldn't let that happen. so I charged at Rue, ready to stop him once and for all, and my battle against the leader of Team Somber begins. Rue leads with his Toedscruel, so I send down 5, and after she Mega Evolves, she wastes no time firing off a 4-time effective Ice Punch, taking out Toedscruel instantly. But Rue doesn't back down. He sends out his next Pokemon, Metagross. Metagross is a Steel and Psychic type with an insane attack and defense, making it one of those Pokemon that can both take hits and dish them right back. Its balanced move pool gives it strong coverage with moves like Meteor Mash and Psychic, while Scary Face helps it keep faster opponents in check. Even in its regular form, it's a wall of metal that demands respect. But when it Mega Evolves, those stats hit another level entirely, and its Tough Claws ability powers up contact moves like Meteor Mash, turning simple moves into a serious threat, and suddenly you're staring down a Pokemon that can control the pace of a battle from the very first turn. Even 5, while Mega Evolved, can't take it down alone. She starts strong with a Force Palm for some solid damage, but Metagross answers with a Scary Face, cutting her speed. That drop proves costly as the next turn, Metagross outspeeds and hits back with a Psychic that does way too much damage. 5 barely hangs on, managing to land another Force Palm for Chip, and luckily, it paralyzes Metagross. From there, I switch into 2 the Lycanroc, who takes a Psychic on the swap, but stays standing. Next turn, 2 goes for a Sucker Punch that just barely misses the KO, leaving Metagross in the red. It goes for a Meteor Mash, a hit that would have definitely finished off 2, but it misses. And that one bit of luck is all we needed as 2 fires off another Sucker Punch, this time taking Mega Metagross down. Rue sends out his ancient Pokemon Roaring Moon next, so I switch into 6. It opens with a Dragon Claw that hits hard, but not enough to make me panic, letting 6 respond with a Leech Seed. After some recovery, Roaring Moon swings again with a Night Slash. But this time, 6 hits back with a Trailblaze, chipping away at its HP and boosting his speed in the process. 6 gets one more turn of healing before Rue pulls back Roaring Moon and sends out his Spirit Tomb right as 6 goes for another Trailblaze. The next turn, I have 6 set up another Leech Seed, but Spirit Tomb fires off a Shadow Ball that hits way harder than expected. 6 barely hangs on though, just enough to put up a Light Screen before taking a Dark Pulse on the following turn. That Light Screen keeps him alive, giving me the chance to swap into 11 on another Shadow Ball. Spirit Tomb goes for a Sucker Punch, but 11 tanks it easily and fires back with a Water Gem boosted Surf, washing Spirit Tomb out in one hit. So Rue sends out his Roaring Moon back into the fight. It hits 11 with another Dragon Claw, leaving him hanging on with just 27 HP. Even so, 11 retaliates with an Ice Beam that lands solid damage before I swap him out for 7, who comes in on a Zen Headbutt that barely scratches her. Roaring Moon doesn't back down, going for a Night Slash that almost takes 7 out. But she holds on and fires back with an Earthquake that finally takes down the ancient Pokemon for good. But the worst is yet to come. Rue sends out his final Pokemon, the Ancient Terror. This thing is on a completely different level, a dragon fighting type with terrifying stats across the board, blistering speed, monstrous attack, and the bulk to match. Its signature move, Collision Course, amplifies the power of its attacks even further, and with Flare Blitz and Dragon Claw in its arsenal, there's no such thing as a safe switch. This Pokemon doesn't just hit hard, it dominates the field the second it appears. Still, I send in 17, and he takes a brutal Dragon Claw but hangs in there and fires back with an Esper Wing. It lands a critical hit, wiping out the Ancient Terror in one shot, defeating Rue and putting an end to Team Somber once and for all. Rue is taken aback by his loss, and Malia and Moxie try to convince him to leave with them. But Rue stands his ground, making one last desperate move, sending out the Ancient Terror and ordering it to retrieve the Dreamstone. But before anyone can move, Breach comes sprinting in after Clefairy, who darts straight past the Ancient Terror and snatches the Dreamstone, hurling it into the ocean. Malia and Moxie try one last time to get Rue to leave, but he refuses to move. So they turn and run, disappearing into the distance as the detectives make landfall and take Rue into custody. Back at Tenebrous Labs, things are finally calm again. The detectives officially close the case, and Professor Tenebrous thanks them for their work. But they shake their heads, saying they couldn't have done it without everyone's help. Cola, the gym leaders, and everyone else who stepped up when it mattered. Moxie and Malia managed to get away, but Inger and Ariana are already in Silversun cleaning out Somber's old base and recovering the ancient Pokemon. Professor Tenebrous plans to send them and the Ancient Terror back to their own time. Then the detectives turn to me. They said even though I was off the case, I did the right thing, and that they owed me for it. They offered to help me get my position back, but I turned it down. I've had enough field work for now. I decide to stay here at Tenebris Labs, as Professor Tenebris' new assistant, officially this time. Still, there's one last thing I need to take care of, because I qualified for this year's Pokemon Championships. So I make my way to Victory Cape, the site where the championships are being held. Before signing up for the tournament, I take a moment to lock in my team. In the end, I go with 17 the Braviary, 11 the Milotic, 23 the Mimikyu, 2 the Lycanroc, 6 the Meganium, and 3 the Tinkaton. And with my final team decided, there was only one thing left to do, and that was to win it all. I head over to register for the tournament, and after a quick check-in, they point me toward the door on the right. I make my way over to tell the representative I'm ready for my first match. And with that, she allows me to pass through the door onto the main stage. Waiting for me on the other side is my first opponent, Chara, and her Altaria. The announcer's voice booms through the arena, welcoming everyone to the Komoria Championships. The announcer then asks if we're ready. And with that, our battle begins. Chara leads with her Ursaluna, and I start things off with 17. Ursaluna wastes no time hammering him with a Thrash that pushes 17 deep into the yellow. But he holds his ground and fires back with 2 Esper Wings, securing the first KO of the match. Chara sends out her Barraskewda next, so I switch into 6, who tanks a Double Edge before setting up a Reflect to soften the blows. That's when Chara makes a smart switch, recalling Barraskewda and sending in her Typhlosion. I respond by swapping into 11, but instead, Chara pivots again into her Fortress. Fortress gets nailed by a Water Gem boosted Surf, barely staying alive, and hitting back with a Double Edge that doesn't do much the next turn. And one more Surf finishes the job, taking Fortress down. Chara sends Barraskewda back in, so I go into 23, and thanks to her Disguise ability, she shrugs off a Liquidation and takes the chance to set up a Hone Claws, raising her attack. The next Liquidation hits full force, but 23 hangs on and strikes back with a Play Rough that leaves Barraskewda hanging on with 1 HP. A quick Shadow Sneak on the next turn finishes it off. That just leaves Typhlosion again, but 2 comes in and makes short work of it with a Choice Band boosted Accelerock, leaving Chara down to her final Pokemon, Altaria. Altaria is a Dragon and Flying type, and while its stats don't seem all that impressive outside its special defense, that changes fast once it Mega Evolves. It drops the Flying type and gains the Fairy, and becomes an all-rounder in its stats. Its ability Pixelate turns normal type moves into Fairy type ones, and powers them up, making attacks like Return or Hyper Voice hit a lot harder than you'd think. But thanks to 11, it only takes 2 Ice Beams to take it out, defeating Chara and moving us on to the next round. I head through to the next stage, where my next opponent Stanja is already waiting, his Pinsir standing beside him, ready for battle. The announcer calls for us to take our positions, and just like that, the next match begins. Stanja leads with his Glamora, so I open with 3. But before she can strike, he recalls Glamora and swaps into Toxapex. 3 still swings with the Gigaton Hammer, landing solid damage despite the resistance. Next turn, I send in 17. He takes a Liquidation on the switch, but brushes it off and fires back with an Esper Wing that wipes out Toxapex in 1 clean hit. Stanja sends Glamora back out, but 11's ready for it. She comes in and fires off a Water Gem boosted Surf that almost gets the KO, leaving Glamora on just 1 HP, which was just enough for it to set up a Stealth Rocks before being taken out by another Surf the next turn. Then Stanja goes into Amoonguss, so I pivot into 3, who shrugs off any Poison type attacks due to her Steel typing. She goes for a Fake Out, but that contact triggers Effect Spore, putting her straight to sleep. 2 turns pass before she wakes up, eating a Solar Beam in the process that honestly doesn't do too much. When she wakes up, she slams down a Gigaton Hammer, dropping Amoonguss into the yellow. Then she finishes the job the next turn with a knockoff, clearing the field once again. I then switch into 2 as Stanja sends out his Scolipede. 2 lands a super effective Accelerock, but Scolipede hangs on and hits back with a Toxic. With the next turn, 1 more Accelerock takes Scolipede out, leaving Stanja with his ace Pokemon, Pinsir. Pinsir's a pure bug type with an incredible attack and surprisingly decent defense to match. And when it Mega Evolves, it gains the Flying type, and that's when things get scary. Its ability Aerialate turns normal type moves into Flying type ones and powers them up. so something as simple as Quick Attack suddenly hits like a truck and has priority. Combine that with its increased speed stat and access to coverage moves like Earthquake or Close Combat, and Mega Pinsir becomes a serious threat the moment it spreads its wings. But I've got the perfect answer, and with a single choice band boosted 4-time effective Excel Rock, Mega Pinsir is gone in an instant. With that, Staunch is out, and we're moving on to the quarterfinals. After a quick break to patch up the team, I head back onto the stage for the next round. Waiting across the field is my quarterfinal opponent, Burger, with his Avalugg next to him. The announcer gives the signal, and without delay, the quarterfinal match begins. Burger leads with his Ninetales, and I start with 3 again. She opens with a Fake Out, getting some chip damage and forcing a flinch. The next turn, Ninetales sets up an Aurora Veil, halving all incoming damage. But that doesn't stop 3 from firing off a Gigaton Hammer that hits super effectively for a clean 1-hit KO. Burger sends out Baxcalibur next, and I decide to keep 3 in. She goes for a Play Rough that lands a critical hit, doing over 50% damage. But Baxcalibur strikes back with an Icicle Crash that's not very effective. On the next turn, 3 tries to finish it off with a Gigaton Hammer, but Baxcalibur survives and fires off another Icicle Crash. I go for Play Rough again, but this time it only does some chip damage, leaving Baxcalibur alive once again. Finally, one last Gigaton Hammer lands and takes it out for good. Burger then sends in his own Tinkaton, so I switch into 6, who gets hit by a Fake Out and a Skitter Smack before managing to set up a Reflect. Burger's Tinkaton keeps attacking, but 6 plants a Leech Seed to start wearing it down. From there, it's a slow but steady stall, with Reflect cutting damage, Trailblaze boosting his speed, and Leech Seed healing each turn. 6 manages to whittle Tinkaton's HP down until it finally faints. Burger's second to last Pokemon is Rapidash, so I send in 23. She takes a Psychic thanks to her disguise and fires back with a Shadow Claw, dropping Rapidash into the yellow. The next turn, a Shadow Sneak finishes it cleanly. That just leaves Avalugg, Burger's ace Pokemon. But it doesn't stay around long, as 11 comes in and fires off a Water Gem boosted Surf, taking Avalugg out in 1 hit and ending the battle. With that, Burger's defeated and we're moving on to the semifinals. After some well-earned healing, I make my way towards the main stage, and waiting for me across the field is none other than Gabriel and her Zoroark. The announcer's voice asks if we're ready, and with that, the semifinal match begins. Gabriel leads with her Claydol, and I open with 23. Claydol barely gets the chance to set up a Stealth Rocks before 2 Shadow Claws take it out cleanly. But Gabriel's next Pokemon, Mawile, doesn't sit right with me, so I bring in 2. And with a single Sucker Punch, the illusion fades, revealing her ace, Zoroark. And with the illusion Pokemon down, Gabriel sends in her Milotic next. So I switch into 6, and he lands a Leech Seed but gets confused by a Confuse Ray. But instead of keeping Milotic in, Gabriel swaps to her Komodo. 6 fights through the confusion and lands a Trailblaze for some chip. So I pivot back into 23, who shrugs off a Boom Burst completely as it doesn't affect her. Then answers back with a 4-time effective Play Rough, one-shotting Komodo. So Gabriel sends her Milotic back in, and I send 6 back out to the field. He sets another Leech Seed while Milotic boosts with Calm Mind. Then I have 6 lock it down with Encore, forcing it to keep using Calm Mind while Leech Seed and Trailblaze slowly wear it down. Bit by bit, Milotic's HP goes down, and eventually it faints, leaving Gabriel with her real Mawile. Mawile's a Steel and Fairy type, and not particularly fast, but its power lies in its Mega Evolution. When it Mega Evolves, its attack stat skyrockets thanks to the ability Huge Power, doubling its base attack stat just like 5 to Medicham. Combine that with moves like Play Rough, Iron Head, and Sucker Punch, Mega Mawile becomes a powerhouse that can tear through almost any team. But 6 isn't backing down. He sets up a Reflect as Mawile boosts its attack with Swords Dance. Then he locks it in with another Encore. From there, it's a war of attrition, as Leech Seed, Trailblaze, and Encore wear down Mega Mawile until it can't stand anymore. And with that, the battle's over, beating Gabriel and moving us on to the finals. After healing my team one last time, I make my way to the main stage for the final battle, and waiting for me across the field is none other than Cola and his Ceruledge. He starts rambling on, but I don't pay any attention. The announcer then calls for us to take our positions, and the Komoria Championships finale began. Cola leads with his Samurott, and I send out 6 to start things off. But Samurott doesn't stay long, as Cola immediately switches into Togekiss, who gets caught by a Leech Seed on the way in. Not wanting to deal with that, he swaps again, this time into Aegislash, while 6 sets up a light screen. The next turn, 6 lands another Leech Seed as Aegislash uses King's Shield, which works perfectly, because the next move is Encore, locking Aegislash in. With Aegislash trapped, I switch into 3, just as Cola pivots back into Togekiss. 3 goes for a Fake Out for some chip, then follows up with a Gigaton Hammer that lands clean, taking out Togekiss for the first KO of the battle. Next up is Gallade. Gallade's a Psychic and Fighting type with incredible attack and speed, and when it Mega Evolves, it gains the Inner Focus ability, preventing flinches and boosting its offensive stats even higher, making it a fast and sharp threat. But 17's faster. 2 Esper Wings later, and Gallade's down without too much trouble. Cola sends out his Kleavor next, so I bring in 2. And with a pair of Choice Band boosted Excel Rocks, Kleavor gets taken out instantly. So Cola then brings Samurott back out, and I switch into 3 again. She starts with another Fake Out for some chip, then follows up with a Play Rough for solid damage. Samurott strikes back with a Sacred Sword, but 3 hangs on. It tries to finish her with an Aqua Jet, but she tanks it and fires off another Play Rough. It just misses the KO, but the next turn, she manages to secure it, taking out Samurott and forcing Cola to bring Aegislash back in. So I pivot into 6 again, and he sets up another light screen while Aegislash fires off a Flash Cannon. Then once again, Aegislash seals its fate by using King's Shield, letting 6 trap it with Encore. With the combination of Light Screen, Leech Seed, Trailblaze, and Encore, 6 the Meganium is able to defeat Cola's Aegislash. That just leaves Cola's final Pokemon, Ceruledge. I send in 23, but Ceruledge wastes no time, going straight for a Swords Dance to boost its attack. 23 hits back with a super effective Shadow Claw, triggering Ceruledge's weak armor, lowering its defense but raising its speed. Ceruledge then strikes with a Bitter Blade that only breaks 23's disguise, letting her hit back with one last Shadow Claw, KOing Ceruledge and defeating Cola, making us the champions of Comoria. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. I would appreciate it a lot if you liked and subscribed, as it would help me out a lot. This video took way longer than I thought it would, but we made it through, and be on the lookout for some new videos in the future. If you can't wait till then, make sure to check out some of my old ones. If you'd like updates, join my Discord. The link will be in the comment section below. I would like to thank everybody who's already subscribed, as we already hit over 2,000. And with that, I have nothing else to say. I hope you have a great night, or morning, or maybe it's afternoon. You know what? Just have a great day. And thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.